What's up, everyone? Welcome to Screen Smash. I'm your host, Dan Morris. Tonight, I have Louis Reza.
Powered up. Super Saiyan.
Jake Brown.
That's why I go last.
And Nick McKay.
Solar flare.
Louis, you're going to have to re-record yourself doing that audio and send it to me. I'm going to have to ADR it over because it got muted out
No.
on our end.
You're just
I
too
have to
much.
scream. All right.
His scream is over 9,000.
Damn it!
It's over 9,000! 9,000!
You'll have to do more Louis noises.
Too much.
This isn't even his final
I need
form.
to ADR you just like an episode of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, if you could put the power rays around me.
Oh, I have to now.
Have Louis
This
dubbed into
this
our episode.
decibel level's over 9,000.
What
Blew it
happened to
out.
my camera? There we go.
Whoa.
God, Louis.
Whoa, that was the solar flare.
Solar flare.
This is going so well.
We're here tonight to sadly but happily honor and celebrate the life of one Akira Toriyama, probably one of the most influential manga, anime, video game creators of all time, who sadly on March 1st has passed away. But man, he has been just a massive influence to all of us here and an entire generation of fans. And many to come, I'm sure, over the years, because he, of course, invented and created one of the greatest anime series of all time in the form of Dragon Ball. And he's also had his creative influences on video games across the medium and many other animes as well. So we're just going to take some time tonight to just talk about how this man has influenced and affected all of us. We're going to talk about some of the games he's been a part of. And, of course, we can't not talk about Dragon Ball. So, if you're ready to leave because you've heard enough about Dragon Ball, there's the door. Anyways, let's start with a quick little, each one of us talking about what Akira Toriyama's work has meant to us. And I'll throw it to Nick first.
Me, pressure's on. So I mean, for me, like the big thing is Dragon Ball. Like I grew up with Dragon Ball, or Dragon Ball Z most specifically. I didn't even know there was a Dragon Ball before Dragon Ball Z at first, but I started watching from like the Saiyan saga, and just it was the greatest, coolest thing when I was a kid. I remember it was always on at 4:30 on like a specific TV channel. So like everyone got home and like you do your homework and then you wait by the TV at 4:30, you watch it, you get to school the next day and everyone's like, oh my gosh, did you see what happened?
Mm-hmm.
So like that was huge for me. That was really formative in my life, because Dragon Ball Z kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things in general, but like specifically to anime. I think Dragon Ball Z is very much the gateway anime, I think, for a lot of people. They kind of get into it from that. I remember watching it and realizing this was anime, and I was like, cool, let me check out some other stuff. So that was huge for me, and I think it's also been huge for like most of media in general. This idea of like the characters that he created in various other works as well. The characters he creates are so like fantastical and have like these powers and abilities that you feel could kind of work anyway. I mean, I don't think we'd have a lot of the Marvel superheroes today without Dragon Ball Z. You know, the idea of super powerful people that can fly around and channel their energy into things. It's like it's concepts and principles that are so widely used now that everyone's like, cool, that's just superheroes, you know. But like this idea of what superheroes are now, I think, is largely thanks to what Akira's been able to bring to the medium. And I for one, like that's kind of what I see from him, is he kind of introduced the world to this super powered.
Oh no!
Nick.
Oh no!
No.
Solar flare!
There we go. Solar flare now.
Solar flare! This is the moment where we find the Dragon Balls and wish him back.
I am Shenron. I shall grant you any wish. Now speak.
Oh, Shenron, I wish Nick back.
Bring it back from the afterlife.
And
Can
My
you
wish came
guys?
true. We got one more wish, Nick.
Did you guys not see me the whole time?
There was a point where you stopped and we lost you, but we had you for the most part.
I was the whole time. Like nothing ever changed.
Oh,
And
wow.
you guys just started screaming solar flares.
You were gone.
Yeah, I think his work, and specifically with Dragon Ball Z, I think the idea of superpowered people, I think is kind of mainstay in a lot of like action and superhero stuff nowadays. So that was really cool. And I just think Saiyans are the freaking coolest, badass race of people ever. Like, who creates a race of people that gets stronger when they get close to death? Like, they almost die and he comes back like 4 times stronger. Like, what a concept!
What doesn't
So
kill you
cool.
makes you stronger.
That's exactly it.
That
Like,
literally.
literally. I love how like Vegeta gets his ass kicked in Namek, and they put him in this like regeneration tube, and he comes out and he's like, "I'm 7 times stronger now." I'm like, how? But it's fucking awesome.
Is that not how you work?
Isn't that how it works?
No,
I thought that's how we do things here.
So pretty much like what Nick said, like most of his work was Dragon Ball to me. And so like I wasn't introduced to Dragon Ball till middle school, to where a friend of mine is like, oh, he's been on the Dragon Ball train for years. And he's like, you got to check out Dragon Ball. I was like, what the heck is this? So I picked up Goku 2, which is in my opinion like the best Dragon Ball games ever made. And so that's how I got to experience Dragon Ball for the first time. And like I fell in love with the story, the characters, like the ideals, like everything. And like it was like the ultimate like fantasy for any kid to be like super strong, like you said, like a superhero. Like this was a version of like before Marvel movies and all this, like Dragon, the thing to watch on TV. So like I'm going to school. Dragon Ball introduced me to freaking blue wristbands, for crying out loud.
Gotta have them sweatbands.
I went out and got them sweatbands, and I was just like, I'm Goku.
And it's a weighted training gear and boots and stuff.
Halloween comes around, like makeshift my own Goku gi and whatnot, and dude, like it had such a like impact on my life, because like I felt like it was one of those characters like Goku, Vegeta, and all them. Like they taught me to be stronger, like as a person, to like working out and like in the gym, or like just getting through in life. Like when you tell yourself, "Oh, I can't do this," have that little thought, like, "Oh, like what would Goku do?" Like not exactly what would Goku do, but like watching enough Dragon Ball would be like, man, I can push myself further. Like I have all these people who like I watch them day in, day out, like all this happened. Like I can do that. I can make myself better. I can go past my limits. So like pretty much like Akira's work just, I feel like, made me always kind of push myself in life. And like that I'm really thankful for. And just saying.
Just saying.
Knee
I think
slapper.
just to add on that, I mean, I think that it's one thing he does so well is create these characters that are like, well, not relatable, but that you can kind of connect with in a way. Influential, like Goku, for example, is that character that's like, never give up, always trying to push himself, always trying to break limits. Like that's like growing up. That's why I loved watching, or I loved Sonic the Hedgehog and Spider-Man, because they were characters that like always, they never say die. They keep trying, keep trying. And you look at Dragon Ball Z, and you've got Goku, who's that kind of character, but then you've got like Gohan, that's like this character that believes in everything right and just, but just has untapped potential that can never be truly like tapped. Like I always thought of that. Like I always thought of myself as like a Gohan kind of character that like, I've got this potential. I just need to like always believing you have something more, in you kind of thing. And I think he does so well with those kinds of characters. Like they really feel humanized, even though they like can destroy planets with like a Kamehameha.
That was always something.
I'm just like him.
I'm just like that guy.
That was a vibe I always got too, watching Dragon Ball as a kid, and like especially like relating to Gohan as a character, as a young boy, and being like, oh, this makes me feel like humans have this untapped potential that we just don't know about. It made me think about like, the sentiment that human beings typically only use about 10% of their brain, which is madness to think about. But then it's also like, if someone gave us a drop of Saiyan blood, would we turn into these crazy overpowered gods? And then like the longer the show goes on, the more it was like the human characters are crazy batshit strong because the human DNA mixed with the Saiyan DNA makes them that much stronger. So yeah, there's a whole snowball of theories you could go into there.
How many of us, like, here's a question. How many of us, after watching Gohan teach Videl
how to fly,
and
try to fly.
Goten how to fly, how many of us try to fly? I remember one day standing in my room and being like, okay.
I literally shared that screenshot from when I rewatched the show a few months ago. I took a screen grab of that moment and posted it. I was like, how many of you ever tried to do this?
The best.
Like for me, man, you know, growing up, especially as a martial artist, you know, it helped cement that, you know, getting into anime that was really specified about like martial arts and fighting and all of that, and I really took a big liking to it. Yeah, kind of like what everybody's said here already. I kind of mirror all of that. That, you know, it was my first real forte into understanding what anime was. And once I was like, oh, okay, this is anime. I've kind of been watching it already my whole life, but I didn't know. And I liked seeing how crazy it got. I liked seeing how ugly it got. I liked seeing the gore, the violence, all that stuff. It was a new experience. Seeing that cartoons didn't have to be, you know, Disney. They didn't have to have songs.
Yeah.
They could really have, you know, darker meanings and stuff. So I started looking for like the darkest stuff that I could find. None of that would have happened. Like, you know, Vampire Hunter D, Akira, you know, stuff like that. Like that was all introduced because of Dragon Ball Z for me. And I got obsessed with it. We were talking about like watching the AMVs, the really cool videos that people would make with the cuts and all of that. Like because of that, I got into Rurouni Kenshin, which taught me a lot on how to be a protector. like you know. It was weird seeing something come from cartoons, essentially. And all of that was just introduced because I thought that Dragon Ball Z was kind of cool as a kid. And I got obsessed with it. And I remember fighting with my parents at one point because we were going on a trip and we were going to be gone for like a week. I was like, but I'm going to miss Dragon Ball. So they had to set up the VCR to record. And oh man, like, there's so much happened because of that damn show. And man, now, you know, it's hard to go back and watch it because it didn't age exactly well, where you have 50 episodes for one fight. But back then it was the only anime that you could watch. So it's, you know, I'm fine with this. Now I'm kind of like, you know, oh man, but that's why I liked Super so much, because it felt like they finally leaned into their own absurdity, that they understood, oh, we don't have to make it all about just shirtless men yelling at each other until one of them died. Now we can, you know, make it about a god who just really likes dessert, and that's the only reason he hasn't killed the planet yet. And now we can have Vegeta, like, you know, really his arc, which by the way, that was the first time they really had a full villain become a full hero. So there would be no Zuko without. Right. Yeah,
I was actually thinking about that earlier about how you could compare Vegeta to Zuko because of their character growth.
I mean, Zuko did it better, but that's because, you know, he ran because Vegeta walked or crawled for everybody. This was the first time that we had ever seen that kind of a thing happen. It was magnificent. It was perfect. That's why Vegeta is more considered the favorite of the show, because everybody kind of also felt more like Vegeta than they did Goku. Goku was just raw talent that was just like could not fail.
Relate harder to Vegeta.
No, big time, because there's that guy that you just can't keep up with, or there's that, you know,
you're always comparing yourself to someone who's getting it easier or doing it better, and no matter how hard you try, you can't do the same thing that he does. Yeah, you fall right into like, yep, I'm Vegeta. And it's just, man, I can't express enough how wonderful it was to grow up with that. And to see so many people have the same concept, we have the same conversations, we have the same feelings. If we didn't see something like that when we were teenagers, when we were younger, then, you know, we wouldn't be into what we're into now. We wouldn't have known these kinds of things. And it was so digestible with the absolute magnitude that was Dragon Ball Z, that is still Dragon Ball. And man, we lost a great one there. So, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
really.
Yeah, I can't think of a whole lot more than what you guys have already said, other than echoing a lot of the same thing. Like Dragon Ball was absolutely my gateway into anime. If it wasn't for Dragon Ball, like I remember being curious about anime back then, but it was when they started putting Dragon Ball on Toonami in the afternoons, and there was like this power hour of cartoons because I would always come home from school, and then I'd watch SWAT Cats, which was like the badass American cartoon because it had violence, and then follow that up with like Dragon Ball Z and Tenchi Muyo, I think, were like the back-to-backs for whatever reason back then. But like I couldn't get my eyes off of Dragon Ball, and every week when you heard that next time on Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, fuck, you know, like I can't wait till tomorrow, even though nothing happened today. Something's gonna happen tomorrow, I think, maybe.
Yeah, it was 20 minutes of a guy changing, kind of a little bit, and then.
You get like 5
time.
seconds of them like pop, 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 and then they're like, "You're pretty good. Let's talk about it for 20 minutes."
Yeah,
Let's go into my backstory.
Yeah,
that's what I felt with Hunter Cross Hunter or Hunter X Hunter. I could not get into it. It's just too much explaining. Shut up. Just get to the fight.
yeah. But like the memories of watching that show and just being like hooked on it, and even to the point where like I had started like one of my first like teenager jobs at the time, working part time at a nursery home, and shit, there was like a 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock window that I was like, I totally shirked my job, and like there was a downstairs like chill room for the senior citizens there, and like I put on Dragon Ball and I'd sit down there watching Dragon Ball. And nobody noticed though because everyone else was gone by then.
I thought Dan was running around nursery homes going, "You look pretty strong. Do you want to fight?
Let's go."
I heard you're the strongest in this place.
Start challenging people to battles.
I thought you were going to say nobody else noticed because they were all dead.
You have to beat me within a inch of my life. I'll come back stronger.
Come back stronger.
But yeah, like Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball Z, everything that Akira Toriyama's done, like his art style is just so like synonymous with everything he's done. Like you can't not say like you see something he's drawn and you know it's him. Like I remember that moment of like, oh, that kind of looks like a Dragon Ball character, just because there's a permeance to all of his art style. You can't not see it. And like his characters are so deep and they're so influential and they're so relatable, even though the stories are batshit crazy. And it's just, man, like you said, Louis, we've lost a legend. And if I had like a drink, I'd like cheers to him. Like he will be missed.
Water.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say on his art style, I've always loved the art style because it's so simplistic, yet tells so much. Like somehow, I mean, the sort of proportions of faces, like a lot of the faces, they have those like just eyebrows that are like that, and that's it. And you kind of look at these faces and you're like, how do you get like Vegeta and Goku to look that, like different? Like they actually like somehow just kind of look different, and it's so simplistic. And that's hair. Like one of the things that got me into anime is a lot of it's the hair mainly. There's like a lot of animes like the style, the drawing styles also are very, very simplistic, but you kind of feel so much out of these characters. And I think it's the way they're presented and the situations and things. But it's one thing that I think has always been so great about his style. I feel like he can tell a great story with Stickman. You'd be like, oh yeah.
Absolutely. Like we're going to talk about Dragon Ball a lot, but I wanted to give a quick shout out, or at least a chunk talking about some of the video games that Akira Toriyama's influenced and been a part of, because this is a video game podcast, yes. But tonight, video games is an afterthought at this point. But yes, he did have a lot of influence on that. Most notably, besides all of the Dragon Ball games that have been made, some of his biggest works include Chrono Trigger, which is one of probably the most well-known, JRPGs of all time. And again, the main character, Chrono, right? And blanking, brain fart. He looks like a Dragon Ball character. Yep. At a glance, he looks like a Saiyan, essentially, with red hair. And then the girl character in the game, I forget her name off the top of my head. She basically looks like Bulma almost from Dragon Ball. But it's like you just do some color palette swapping, change up some features, and it's like, oh, this whole new characters. But it works. Everything he's done has been fantastic. Luca, thank you. But to shout out some other ones, obviously like the Dragon Quest series, he's done the character designs for. He did Blue Dragon, and also Sandland. His manga Sandland from like 2000 is now getting a new video game that's coming out in a few weeks, and it's going to be hard not to play that game honestly now, because just I want to experience everything that this man has done. And oh yeah, Tobal. I forgot about Tobal. That was an interesting one. It's a fighting game from the PlayStation 1 way back when. With that said, obviously I know you guys have already kind of shouted out some of the games, but is there any of your favorite like Akira Toriyama games?
I don't know how many of the Dragon Ball Z games he actually did work on.
I mean, I think he's had his
a lot
finger in at least all of them at some point.
A couple of them, because I know he worked on Kakarot and Fighter Z, because he did original characters for those two games as well. I think he did Android, is it 21 or what's the new Android that's in Fighter Z?
Yeah, I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was with a female.
But yeah, I know that he made that for the game. I was gonna say, in terms of Dragon Ball Z games, it was fucking Budokai everything for me, dude.
Budokai 1 and 2.
I played Budokai 1, 2, 3. I played all the Tenkaichis, all the Raging Bursts,
Raging Blast, and Infinite
I played
Burst.
All of those.
There's
so
a Burst
much,
one,
dude.
So many games. Burst Limit. That's one. I have.
Burst Limit is another one. Yep. I have a poster of that game. I loved I loved watching the series of Dragon Ball Z. It was amazing to watch it, but playing the video games was so cool because you're reliving the story of like the whole of the Dragon Ball Z saga, and then in further games you get to do Dragon Ball and then Dragon Ball GT. So it was really cool to kind of go through the story again with that, and you kind of like more immersed because now you have control over these super powerful characters. Man, I played so many Dragon Ball Z games. That was my shit, dude. I never found anyone that was like that played it enough as well that I could like play against.
No, I used to play the Budokai games with my friends all the time. There was constant battles, especially when we learned like all of the tricks with like setting up your capsules in Budokai and like the way you could like chain together things and then get like the perfect like the super Kamehameha and be like, you're gonna die in one hit essentially because of the way I've got my capsules set up. Oh man,
I used to love it. Budokai 3, I used to like put music on and then I would like random select a character, but I'd like have like rules sometimes. I'd say like random select, but it has to be a Saiyan. And then I'd play with the Saiyan and then I'd random select my opponent and say, okay, if I win 10 times, then I've got to change. And like I would just listen to music and play for hours, dude. Man, I love that game.
I love Budokai 2. Dude, that game was so much fun. And that intro to the game, was so good, dude. Man. That music in the intro. And then I remember getting a PS2 Slim for Christmas one year and getting Budokai Tenkaichi, the first one. And oh my god, dude, like that blew my mind. I love those games. Those are so good. Cool. But in terms of like outside of like the Budokai games, actually really loved the Dragon Ball Sagas game. Like it was clunky as hell.
You've mentioned that one. I've never played the Sagas.
Dude, but it's so if you play it now, it might not be as good. But like as a kid, like getting into Dragon Ball for the first time, dude, it went hard, man. I'm like any Dragon Ball game, like find me a Dragon Ball game where the music just doesn't go hard. Because every single game, like I can remember, it was so good.
That's so true, yeah.
But I remember picking up the first Budokai game from Blockbuster for like $6.99, and dude, like I stayed up till like 5 a.m. playing that, and I was just like, I'm so hooked on this, and like I'm not big on like those fighting games, but like Dragon Ball's always been the only type of game like that I can play. Like I can't play Street Fighter, I can't play Tekken and all that, like, but if it's Dragon Ball, I'm gonna suffer through it.
Yeah, I still need to crack into Kakarot. I've yet to actually play it, but I've always wanted that like actual story-based Dragon Ball game. Like Budokai does it a little bit. You play through the fights, but it's mostly just it's a fighting game to its core. And I've heard Kakarot's phenomenal. I have it, just never quite cracked into it. I've just never gotten around to it. And like I know I got a burnout with the fighting games because like I had all the Budokai games, I got the Tenkaichi game, I've got Raging Blast 1 and 2. I've got Burst Limit. And then I know I got Xenoverse when it came out, but then that's kind of like where I fell off. I was like, okay, it's basically the same thing every time. Like, okay. But yeah, I need to go back and actually play Kakarot. I was thinking about playing it today to get ready for this conversation. I was like, I don't want to just play like an hour of it and then be like, oh, I played Kakarot, you know.
I made it to the start of the Cell Saga. I'm not a big fan of the combat. I think what was the ones that came out before the oh my god, I'm blanking.
I think Xenoverse,
and
then there was
create your character.
I think it's Xenoverse.
That's Xenoverse.
Xenoverse. The combat in Xenoverse, I think, was really good. I wish that kind of would have carried over to Kakarot because I felt like it combat over Kakarot. If it had in it, I'll be fine.
I never really. I Budokai 2, that was my jam for sure. I also put on the rock music and would just lose myself for hours. Mr. Satan.
Satan.
Goat. I demolished.
I remember doing that too, like giving Mr. Satan just super powered and shit.
Yeah, because he would do that stuff where he would have the bombs. And he would like drop them, and oh man, I would destroy with the little jetpack. It was so fucking hilarious.
Dude, I remember his ultimate or like his special move where like you give them a present, and if you mess it up, then like they throw it back at him, and he's like, "Whoa!" Blows up his face. God, that game is so good.
It was pretty good, and then I like it kind of created unreal expectations. For anime games after that, because every one that I played, it just didn't hold up. It didn't do the same. It didn't have the same feel. And I tried Xenoverse, and I got into it for like 2 days, and there was too much to do. It's too complicated. It's too involved, and you gotta fight it. It felt like when my friends and I were playing NBA 2K, like whatever. That like you would, if you weren't really treating the game as a full-time job, there's no way that you would be good enough to like actually be able to go out there. Yeah, so I was just kind of like, I don't need all of that. They're still fun, and I wouldn't knock anybody for loving those kinds of games. It's not my cup of tea. And I always wanted to get into what was it? Was Dragon's Dogma? No, not Dogma. Dragon
Quest.
Dragon Quest. God. Okay. Yes. I always wanted to get into Dragon Quest. Never did, because that was around the time that I was in love with JRPGs, and very much because of Final Fantasy VII. And I was like, I'm going to play every one of these things I can get my hands on, and I never got around to Dragon Quest, and I hated myself for that. And it just kind of, it took too long to. Like now it's kind of like my back catalog is way too big. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. But now that this happened, I might do it just to see to fulfill that very, very, very early bucket list thing that I had as a kid. I don't know. It's sad.
It's not sad.
They're like, God damn it! There's so much potential. So he never hit his full potential. He's like Gohan.
Yeah.
He just keeps getting better, and then he got even more better, and then even betterer, and it's just like, oh man.
And then he gets a tracksuit.
A tracksuit.
I forgot about the tracksuit.
Lame. I don't know. The tracksuit wasn't as bad as the Great Saiyaman outfit.
Man, I'm Team Gohan all the way, man. Like
I love Gohan so much, and it killed me when they nerfed him after the Cell battle. Like, man.
Yeah, that one sucked. Yeah. But I mean, I actually got so mad about the nerf that I started hating Gohan. To be honest, I was kind of like, he sucks now. I would
say the saving grace of Gohan in the later series, jumping ahead here, getting into the Dragon Ball talk, is Videl. Like just Videl, the relationship with Videl, Mr. Satan, all that is fantastic. I loved it. I loved Videl being a human that learns how to fight essentially at their level and get better and stronger and unlock her potential. And like the thing that I think pissed me off more than anything is how they teased Gohan getting cool again and then pulled it back. And then they'd get him cool again and then pull it back. Like 3 times in that arc, he would be like, he's the most powerful one of us. And then he immediately gets beat. And then he's got to like come back again. I don't know. It just drove me nuts. I'm like, just let Gohan be good.
I just like how he actually gets to be kind of like the family man that Goku kind of wasn't. I know that's controversial, but
I mean, not controversial, just true. It's not a great dad.
I mean, but like he actually gets to kind of try and have that normal life, you know, like while Goku's just like, I want to fight everyone.
I just gotta fight.
I don't think Goku ever thought about having a normal life. I think he was just happy fighting. He just happened to have a kid. That was all it was. I mean, he loved them. He loved Chi-Chi. He loved Gohan. Kind of. I mean, and also the other one, the not Gohan, Goten. I know.
There's another one.
I know. I love Goten. I loved Goten. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's another one.
Goten was my main in all of the Budokai games. I always used him because he's so short.
GT Goten, no.
Speaking on games, before we go hard on Dragon Ball, I wanted to shout out again the Legacy of Goku games. Those were fantastic, like Game Boy Advance games back in the day. They were my childhood because they were actually the first Dragon Ball games I ever played before Budokai. Because that was like, I had my Game Boy Advance and I was riding the school bus, in the morning, and I'm sitting there just jamming away on Legacy of Goku, like, Goku, and just like this little pew, like shooting these little beams. And then when Budokai came out, I was just like, oh my God, like this is incredible. I get to be these characters that I love so much.
Did you guys ever play Jump Force?
I never played Jump Force, but I know he did that though.
It says he worked on a couple of original characters for it, but I know it was like a big anime crossover type game, wasn't it? I never played it.
Yeah, it says that One Piece. There's one thing that says it's like the Avengers, but for anime and manga. Essentially, just taking a bunch of different anime characters and mashing them together into one thing.
Dragon Ball Super Smash Brothers.
Yes.
I heard the game wasn't great though, but I never read or saw any of the original manga. I am very interested in Sandland though. Like Sandland is starting to like pique my interest because I'm curious to do like a new kind of like action RPG game that's also not Dragon Quest, because I never really got into the Dragon Quest games. I did play the Dragon Quest Builders a little bit, and then I played what's the offshoot that's like the Warriors one. I played a little bit of that one as well. Either way, he did all the characters. Not Breakers. It was actually made by like Tecmo Koei, and it was like one of those 1 versus 1,000 type battler games. It wasn't Warriors. I'm blanking on what it is now. But anyways, there's just so many cool games that he's been a influence on, as well as, because you can say that there's a lot of games that try to emulate what Akira Toriyama did with Dragon Ball and then try to turn that into like video game form. So that how many games could we possibly try to, like, if we really thought about like, oh yeah, that's probably influenced by Dragon Ball, or that's probably influenced by Akira Toriyama's writing. Let's get into kind of like the main point here of just like the magnitude of the work that this man has done. Obviously, we've been gushing about Dragon Ball so much already. And that's kind of like obviously the meat and the potatoes of it. He's done a lot of other manga. He's done books for a lot of the other series he's done. Like there is manga for like Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest, Dragon Ball, Blue Dragon. He did do a little bit of work on some other projects, but just, man, this guy's been just killing it for decades and decades.
Dragon Ball came out in like what, 80?
In the early 80s, I think. Was when Dragon Ball started.
80s.
But like it's kind of sad to kind of like think, where does it go from here? Like, well, if they continue Dragon Ball and all these other franchises I'm a part of, like, will it's not going to feel the same. They recapture, what he's created.
Yeah. I know I saw a press release talking about he had a lot of ongoing work still going on, sadly, at the time of his passing, that it's kind of like, ooh, well, what exactly happens with some of that stuff? I'm sure he was probably working on some more of the newer Dragon Quest. There might be a new Dragon Quest game coming, because Dragon Quest 11's been out for 5 years now at this point. So I'm sure it's fully possible that he was doing work and designs on those, as well as the new Sandland game and any other ongoing work he might have been doing with like Dragon Ball Super. So yeah, I mean, there's passionate people that could easily pick up and carry the mantle, and obviously he's not doing all the artwork for all these things. It will continue on. We're just hope that they can keep the essence and the spirit alive of those shows.
So backtracking a little bit, you mentioned he worked on Blue Dragon. That was a game I always wanted to try, and I haven't got around to it yet. And like I see it on sale all the time. So what's y'all's experience with it? Have you played it? Is it good?
I picked that up on sale recently too. Kind of like this. I did the same thing. Like I finally pulled the trigger on it when it was on sale, and it was one of those things that like when that game came out, I was very interested in it because back then it was an Xbox exclusive, and I was like, oh man, a new JRPG from Square Enix that's artworked by Akira Toriyama, and it's exclusive to Xbox. And I think I tried it back then, and initially was just kind of like, I didn't put enough time into it to really make a good judgment. But then when I played it recently, I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. The story is really good. It's really well written. The combat felt fun. And it was an interesting concept with how the dragon is kind of like the shadow monster. And it kind of gave me vibes of Legend of Dragoon, which I'm a big fan of. I didn't play a lot of it. I probably maybe put like 10 hours into the game, but I was very much enjoying what I did play. So if you can find it on sale, because it's normally $20, I think, like maybe definitely give it a shot.
And I think I've seen it for like $6 on the Xbox store.
Yeah, it probably goes on sale for less than $10 usually.
I definitely want to check it out. But I've been eyeing it for a long time, and I've had a buddy who's like, I'm not buying an Xbox until that game is backwards compatible. And it finally became backwards compatible. And he's like, all right, I'm buying the Xbox. Favorite Dragon Ball moment? Go.
Oh, that's easy. For me, at least. Teen Gohan going Super Saiyan 2 is my favorite moment. Done.
Good one.
Done.
Good one.
So we talked about this right before.
There's like a song of him transforming, like that song that plays, and him doing the scream and the like transformation sounds. That was my ringtone for the whole of high school. Everyone was like, "What the hell song is that?" I used to like quieten it, be like, "Nothing."
You have it as your ringtone, but like so embarrassed when it actually plays.
Exactly. I used to be like, I should turn this off because I'm actually kind of like, I don't want to like seem like the nerdy kid. But then I would be like ready to change it, but like, no, I can't change it. It's freaking awesome.
What's
like
nerdy about shirtless muscle men screaming at each other till one of them dies? Remember,
teen muscle man.
They kill each other with yelling.
I call that your local Planet Fitness.
Exactly.
No,
we talked about this. My favorite scene has to be from the first Brawley movie when somebody gets punched so hard they fall through a mountain, and he goes, "Oh my God!" He's like, "God, no, I'm the devil." I'm like, "God,
Devil. Oh my God, he's so goddamn cool.
still love that." That chills. It's like that's the same thing, anime wise, as when Darth Vader, when you see the red lightsaber in Rogue One, that's the same feeling that I get. Oh my god!
Doesn't he say something to Vegeta as well? Like Vegeta says, "I am the Prince of all Saiyans," and then he finally like plucks up his courage to go and actually fight Broly. And then Broly like also smashes his head into a mountain.
He
and
immediately
then,
grabs him.
Why is it always the
doesn't
first?
Broly say something to him or something like that?
I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about, and yes, he does, but I can't remember what it was. But like, he like Vegeta goes up to him and he immediately just grabs him and just.
Talk about favorite moments too. Like obviously, I am 100% on board with like the Gohan going Super Saiyan 2 because that's just like, you know, complete shivers down your spine watching that moment when he just. Blah. One of the ones that's always stuck out to me too that I'm a big fan of, and it's one of the things that kind of like solidified my love for the show was also Trunks' appearance when he first shows up and he just decimates Frieza with the sword and he does that whole like I'm like, who is this guy and why is he so cool? What's with his jacket? Like I wanted
the cool hair, the cool jacket.
I always loved Trunks, and then like I always
Gohan and Trunks
and Gotenks. Young Trunks is such a baller and an asshole.
Right.
I mean, you can't talk about big moments and not talk about the first time Goku went Super Saiyan as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's Overly Sarcastic podcast, which is a wonderful YouTube group, and they have an hour-long podcast about how perfect the hype to get to Super Saiyan was. And one of the coolest ways that they talk about it is that like you don't know what Super Saiyan is. Like now everyone knows what it is. Now you got, supersonic, you got everything. Anytime that anybody, does the super thing, they go, and then the yellow and all that. Kind of like I did at the beginning of the show. But anyway, so when you have before any of that was a thing, you have Vegeta constantly going, I'm Super Saiyan now. And he goes up to Frieza and he's like, I am the Super Saiyan. It's like, oh my God, he did it. Cool. And then nothing happens. Like then just this sneaky power level until it's such a drastic change that this guy's hair, everything about him changes. And it's just this huge moment. And I love what they said, that it wasn't really just a change of like power. It was also a superpowered evil side. Like he was like if you're thinking about it, like in terms of more modern, like Bleach, when Ichigo turns into the Hollow and he loses control and he's super violent and all of that. That's what Goku was like. This guy who just was complete happiness and sugar and, I'm a fighter. And then out of nowhere is just pissed off trying to murder this little alien guy. And it's, oh God, like, nothing lives up to that anymore. I've been chasing that dragon.
Yeah, that moment of him changing and like the lightning flashing, him breathing, and like his hair starting to like trickle and pop and like, oh yeah, exactly that sensation and that feeling and that chill of him finally like ka-cha, and like the transformation. I know exactly what you're talking about, Louis, and like trying to get that thrill of watching that the first time. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the first time I actually watched that scene was one of those nights where I was at work and I'm like in the basement watching Dragon Ball on a TV when I'm supposed to be working. And I'm just like, oh shit.
Just screaming at the top of your lungs. Oh my God, man. Like just thinking about that gives me tingles because you have that, like, it's almost like when you watch a mystery movie and like you find out who the killer is, and like you kind of knew, and you get that real big rush of dopamine. You're like, oh yeah, that was me. I got it. Like that's what it felt like to see that moment happen. It was such perfect climax. So good.
I always loved with those big transformations like Goku's, like Gohan's against Cell as well. It's almost as if they're like trying to keep this enormous amount of power in. And then something just kind of snaps and it just like breaks loose. Like that's what happened with Gohan. That's why I love that moment so much, is because he didn't want to go Super Saiyan 2 because he knew he was going to lose himself. He was going to be too powerful.
They get kind of feral.
Yeah, and then he saw like Android 16 get killed, and it just like, I love that shot where you just see this like red line behind him, and then it just opens up, and it's
There's
like,
so many.
It's just the coolest fucking thing.
I
dude.
love those the establishment of those anime tropes too. That like, you know what that means, that, like the shooting line, but it's like with the first time you see it, you're like, hey, but it's that like visualization of like his mind snapping.
Yep.
And he just can't stop it at that point, because then you get to that point where it's like he's not even thinking anymore. It's just happening. It's just, like.
I have a theory that when Gohan first goes Super Saiyan, that's when they're in the time chamber. And he has the long hair. I think that's the moment that Toriyama was like, I got to bring a long hair Super Saiyan back. And that's what made Super Saiyan 3. Because that looks so goddamn cool. He's just standing there and like there's this giant big yellow thing just floating in the background. And that, come on, man. I wanted him to keep that long hair. That looked awesome. Go on, get the long hair. You look better with it.
Now, granted, Dragon Ball is a ridiculous show, and it's like, I went through this with Brandy trying to explain Dragon Ball to her while we're watching Dragon Ball, and she's like, I don't get this. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to get it. Like, it's just a matter of like looking for the thing that will hook you or won't, because it's like you're in or you're out. Like, if it doesn't do it for you, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, like
I think it's.
Go ahead, Nick.
I think it's one of those things that's like you. It's like, yeah, you either kind of get it or you don't get it, because it's so ridiculous, but it's also just you get lost in this fantasy of it. And like I was gonna say just now, I think like that's one thing that makes like anime so cool and so appealing, is that like there's these things like the sort of red line going behind their head, and specific there's things like I remember like watching anime when I was young, and like if a character, like if you have like a character would say something stupid, and like your reaction would be like, oh, or something like, oh, dude. But the characters would just like in one frame, they would just like collapse.
Yeah, the
and you would
drop.
just see their legs up,
Mhm.
and I was like that doesn't make any.
I had to
fucking sense
explain
at all,
that
but
to Brandy,
every
actually,
time-
specifically that concept of when a character just falls backwards. Like they're like,
Yeah.
she was like, what happened?
Every time you see it in an anime now, you're
Or you
like,
get
oh,
like the
that's-
blood
that
spurt
shit's hilarious.
when
It's
somebody
great.
gets embarrassed or something.
Yes. There's little things like that are just so ridiculous, but you're like, it's just something about it that's just so appealing, and it's just fun, you know. And it's like, like I was gonna say this earlier as well. Like, do you remember when we were kids, we watched Dragon Ball Z, and people would be like, "Oh, are you watching your cartoons?" I'd be like, "It's anime."
It's anime. Well, I was.
What I was talking
Never
about.
call it a cartoon.
I had another thing I was going to mention too, because going in line of like trying to explain the show to somebody when I was a teenager and watching Dragon Ball Z like religiously after high school, coming home and sitting down and watching, and like I was in the middle of the Cell Saga, and my dad just having no understanding whatsoever, sitting there watching the show, having no idea what's going on, and he just looks at me like dead steel, like, "Why do you watch this?" And I looked at him and was like, "What do you mean? Why wouldn't I watch this?" He's like, "But this is just, it's so ridiculous. And so it doesn't make any sense." And I'm like, "That's why I like it. Because it's ridiculous, because it's not normal, because it's not baloney boring." And I tried to explain this to my dad. I'm like, "That's why I like it, because it's not boring. It's ridiculous. And I love it." And it was just he did not get it at all, and it was just like this really weird, awkward moment between me and my dad, where he was just kind of like, "All right, well, you're dumb."
When he watches, Dad just stands up and screams.
Like, I'll
I
show
was
you.
lucky-
Ah!
I was definitely lucky enough that like my dad kind of questioned it a couple of times. Where he was just like, what is it about this that you like? And it would always be like at the exact perfect moment that he needed to ask, where I'm watching like Cowboy Bebop, and I'm like, "Give it a second." And then the fight scene happens, and he's like, "Oh my god, that's really cool." I'm like, "I know, right? Come on, man. That's why. This is why, Dad."
Well,
And
my dad was the
Oh,
type
man.
of man that would watch a action blockbuster movie and then question any of the special effects or physics and be like, "Oh, that's not realistic." I'm like, "Why are you watching a movie
That's no fun.
then? Suspend your
people.
disbelief."
You must be
For a
great at
second.
parties.
And thanks, Dad.
It's his body trick.
He doesn't watch the show.
there is no
Hey,
way.
Dad, do you want to see this power pole extend? What? Magic.
I've mentioned this before, that I have friends where one of them will she was watching Frozen with her kids, and she's texting us, but she's texting us like in real time. And one of the questions was, "This bitch, did she forget?" It was Frozen 2. She's like, "Did she forget everything that her sister did for her? And she's just like treating her like an asshole? Like, what is she doing?" I'm like, that's the story arc.
Yeah, right.
You're 5 minutes at the beginning. Let it cook. Get there. Jesus Christ. And we'll go watch a mystery movie, and she's like, why did he kill him? Why did he kill him? I'm like, I don't know. That's the point of the mystery. That's why we're here. Can you watch the movie, please?
You're supposed
Shut
to
up,
wait till
story.
you get to the end and see the resolution.
Yeah, like, we don't know why. That's the point. Come with me on this journey. I swear it's worth it. I love my
I think
friends.
we just have more patience because we grew up watching Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Maybe. That's like, I've known people who are the type of people who they'll before they watch a movie or a show or a book, they actually read the end or watch the end and then go back because they want to know what happens
Oh.
before they start it. And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Sociopaths.
I
Yeah,
did,
right.
I did that when I was in grade school, when I was in fifth grade. And then I was like, oh, I'm ruining things for me. And then I matured. But yeah, I did that for Goosebumps.
That's terrible, man.
Yeah, it used to
Oh,
drive me
never-
nuts.
No.
Like,
It's like it's self-spoiler.
I mean,
It's
I
no
remember
fun.
like, because I came into Dragon Ball Z late into the show. Like, I think the first time I caught it was like mid Saiyan Saga, then it jumped into like Cell Saga, and I was just like, I don't know what's happening. And then it was years before I actually watched the show from start to finish, because I only watched it when it was airing on TV until I think I managed to get most of the way through it watching it on TV eventually, but then finally got like the DVDs and was able to sit and watch the whole show from start to finish. It's like, man, that's a trek.
That is a trek. I remember I saw a meme recently where it was like, you're old if you can like measure time in Dragon Ball Z episodes. But like, yeah, I'm going away on vacation for like 6 Dragon Ball Z episodes. You're like, oh, a whole week? Awesome.
Damn.
5 minutes of Namek time.
Story arcs.
Damn it! I was gonna say that. Damn it! I was gonna say I'll be back before the planet Namek.
I've been in hospital for a whole Frieza fight. Damn, dude. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Namek's gonna explode in 5 minutes. Like, so I've got like 2 months. Cool.
42 episodes later.
So it sucks because it's like I said, my first experience was the Cell Saga with Legacy of Goku 2. So then after that, I started watching the show, which was the Frieza, like the Saiyan Saga and then the Frieza Saga on Toonami. And it was always like on school nights. And so it would be past my bedtime. So I'd have to like quietly turn the TV on after my parents go to sleep. And I had one of those TVs when you turn it on, it makes that loud, like, so I had to always like turn it on. And I would watch it every night. And like I got up to, I think it was like the Frieza fight with Goku. It was like it was about to happen. And then the episodes would reset at the start of the arc. And I'm like, what happened? No. Like it wouldn't finish. It would get to the point, and then it'll just replay the entire season over. And I was like, no, they can't do that. It's terrible.
So rude.
It was rude. I hated it.
Like this is like talking about the whole episode of what we've been talking about. I mean, this is the kind of joy and just like happiness that someone like Akira Toriyama has brought to people by creating something like Dragon Ball. I mean, I am pretty sure the 4 of us could sit here and talk about this shit for like the next 5 hours.
Easy.
And it's just like,
Easy.
and this is just because some guy like thought of something in his mind and decided to draw a character on a piece of paper. And 40 years later, here we are talking about that, like that he's created. I mean, that's the legacy of this guy. I think is look at our smiling faces and how joyously we talk about our memories of watching Dragon Ball Z. I mean, this is what the man's all about.
Yeah, like I owe a whole portion of my childhood and youth to him, and time spent, pouring over these characters, looking at power levels on the internet before Google, and like I had a spreadsheet of power levels from like Ask Jeeves back in the day. But yeah, that's actually I was saying, like, for closing us out here, like I wanted to do like some final thoughts and like just kind of like a quick tribute, and that was perfect, Nick. Just Akira Toriyama and just everything he's brought for us, the joy. And that's why I wanted to make this a honoring the legend and farewell to the man. No sadness. It is sad, but holy hell, are we happier, better people because of him and his existence, as well as all of his creations and the things, all of the dang things we have in our lives because of him. And a lot of going until like a blood vessel pops in you.
What are you doing in there?
Bearing down.
Okay.
Shut up, Mom.
I cannot be the only person here. And I don't just mean like anybody watching as well.
Whatever you're saying, everyone listening has done it.
Yes. We have all maxed out our power and posed in front of the mirror that way right before a shower.
Oh,
just that.
I gotta power up. Let's see if my hair twitches. I think I feel something.
Yeah,
like, come on.
And then you got that hair gel that stuck really well. And yeah. You totally.
That was middle school me. Like I had like the full on spikes. Like my parents were like, "Freaking just put your hair down."
I need
Woman, do the thing, God.
Yeah. And like you ever had like that like you had a I can like do like the tingle at will on the back of your neck, and like every time I did that, I was like, I'm going Super Saiyan.
I'm going
Jesus.
source. I can feel it. All right, last question, final question, closing us out. Who cried when Vegeta sacrificed himself and died?
Which time?
The biggest time.
Which time?
Like, well, not the
Majin
first time.
Buu.
When he sacrificed himself. Yeah, that was Majin Buu to save like Trunks and Goten.
Yes. Even you, Kakarot.
Nah,
like
man.
the moment itself, like maybe not, but when he fucking grabs Trunks and pulls him in,
Gives him a
I
hug.
was shattered because like I've had a tough relationship with my dad, so that was like, even thinking about it now, I'm like, dude. Like in the games, I love how he does it in the games as well. Like you do that move in the games, and he has like a quick little thing about it. But he's like, I do this for you, Bulma, for you, Trunks, and even you, Kakarot. And then he explodes. Like it's dude, great scene. Yeah, I cried.
It was the future Gohan for me. That's what got me.
Mm.
And Trunks was like, "You are my everything."
You know what?
In
I'll
the
give you- I'll
Trunks,
give you
the
that
Trunks
one.
movie.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
The history of
dude.
Trunks.
Oh,
that's right.
he had
Yeah,
a
I'll give you
badass
that
death though. Like
Yeah.
that like shower of like blasts. That was dope.
All right, guys. Any final closing thoughts? One last like cheers and hope you're having fun up
R.I.P.
there on Snake Way, Akira Toriyama.
Oh man, dude,
Let's go
he's
say
in
hi to
for
King
a
Kai.
heck of a way.
Tell
Still
King Kai
running.
say what's up.
Snake way. Oh man.
In a few months' time,
Yeah.
he'll come back. He's like, I've been training with King Kai.
Kira comes back, goes Kaioken.
Dude, could you imagine if that was real? Like, Dragon Ball's real. Let's go. Let's start training.
Oh man,
Okay,
I got a lot of training I need to pick back up on. Uh-oh.
If Akira can do it.
Well, he gets my spirit bomb energy. So
Give him your energy. Did anyone do that? Like when Goku would
Trying
be
to
like,
shoot
give
it
me
in-
your energy. We'd all
No.
stand there watching the TV like,
Never. You can have it, Goku.
oh man,
I'll
when
give my
I saw
sister, she'll
when
give
you
you
said
some
that,
as well.
like, I remember going up to like,
Mom,
the
we're
dollar-
doing it.
I remember going up to like the dollar store with my brother and when I was younger, and they sold like the Boo Saga on tapes, like $2 tapes, like VHS. And like if you put them all together, it's like they had like a kind of like a picture that would show.
Mhm.
God, dude, those were so cool. They had like 2 episodes of tape. And I would just go out there, and every time I'd be like, "Do they have a new one? Did they have a new one? Yes, awesome!" And
Yeah.
it's always out of order. I mean, so good, man. I've watched Dragon Ball so out of order before I actually sat from the beginning and watched it.
Yeah.
yeah, me too.
My final words for Toriyama. Thanks for the inspiration.
Lots and lots of inspiration and love through lots of yelling and rage, but love ultimately.
I mean, like in friendships, man. Like I met a lot of people, like who, I bonded with who love Dragon Ball, and like I've gone to the gym and we've listened to Dragon Ball
Let's
music
go
while
Super
working
Saiyan.
out. And, Dude, friendships, memories. Like I like to think I wouldn't be who I am without it.
Mhm.
Totally.
Well, on that happy thought, thank you all for joining us this evening while we talk about our love and our passion and everything that the one and only, the great Akira Toriyama has given us in our lives. This has been special for me to talk about and to share this with you guys. So thank you all. Thank you 3 for being here with me. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to catch us over on CouchSoup.com and CouchSoup YouTube channel to watch the show, and you can catch our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts. And please share with us some of your favorite Dragon Ball moments or your favorite Akira Toriyama work. We want to hear it, and it would be great to connect with anyone else in the same way. So yeah, that's going to do it for this evening on Screen Smash. Thank you all for hanging out with us and sharing in our love. And then let's go, brah, Super Saiyan. I pooped myself.
Anybody have any toilet paper?
I am so happy I live alone.
Come on, Nimbus.
Now I'm happy.